Welcome back to another filming of Captain's Call. I'm Captain John Bushy.
I'm Command Master Chief Michael Wilkins.
And I'm Lieutenant Commander John Beatty, the Public Works Officer.
And like he said, he's a Public Works Officer, so we're here to talk about PW today and what Public Works does for you on a daily basis. So, John, what can you tell us about your department?
Well, our department has roughly 330 personnel. It's one of the largest departments on the installation. Demographics-wise, we have about 290 host nation employees, about 40 USCS that are split about 50-50 between USCS and military CVs and CEC officers. Okay. Within Public Works, we have 7 departments. 5 of them have major links within the command. So first off, FMD, which is our facilities maintenance division. That's where all of our work requests start, and it's kind of the process to get everything flowing and to decide where the work needs to go. The other next department is the Facilities Engineering and Acquisition Division, what we call a FEAD. They do a lot of the contract support, facility service contracts, construction contracts. And then Production Division is kind of the other area where we will send work. That's the largest department that we have. It has most of the MLC workers that do all of the maintenance, upkeep of the facilities. They have the ability to do small projects and all of our emergency work as well. Within that department also is the self-help CVs, which we can use as an extension of the shops to do smaller projects. And we also have the environmental division, which is very important to keep us out of trouble, and then also but to keep the base, the tenants and residents safe from all the different environmental hazards. And then also it's a good, let host nation know that we're taking environmental stewardship seriously. And then lastly, the other 3 departments are kind of internal: financial management, to make sure we're billing people properly and receiving payments properly, and then admin internally. To keep me straight, and then our safety office, which is a one-person show that covers all of our in-house safety issues, as well as provides oversight for our contracted work.
Okay.
Sir.
So you mentioned the CBs and self-help. Now, when I first got here in 2011, we had a full battalion of CBs, and now we no longer have a full battalion here. What kind of service can our commands expect from self-help?
Sure. Within self-help, there's a lot of there's several options. If a unit wants to do a smaller project, that they have some manpower to contribute, we can provide the materials, some training for those sailors to help do the work, and we'll also provide labor as well to assist in the construction or small improvements.
Right.
We also have the ability. We have a small department, but we do have the ability to do some smaller projects as well. So there's things that we're looking at. We can do small repairs and construction.
But generally speaking, though, anything that's big has got to be contracted out, right?
Typically contracted out, or we'll give to the shops as a longer-term projects if we have the capacity.
Right.
So, yes, Mr. Chair.
So I know an area that we've been focusing a lot on lately has been our environmental area. There's construction that's going on over by the golf course. There was some archaeological finds that happened close to hole 2 on the golf course. Did you want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. Yeah, there was a great find that we had. One of our previous employees, who's now working in Yokosuka for NAVFAC Far East, she, after a rain event, was doing a ground survey. Because typically, I guess, after a large rain, you can sometimes find potential objects, artifacts on the surface after a large rain. So she took advantage of that opportunity and walked along the Tade River at the golf course and found some some ancient artifacts or some artifacts that dated back several thousand years ago. So with that finding, we got a contract in place for a archaeological contractor to come through and do some digging, and they found several more pieces of artifacts, pottery. There was a coin, some other things that date back at least 5,000 years.
Wow.
So, and our plan with that is to share that with the community. So that's a huge step here, because obviously, as you know, so many buildings and around the base that there's very few space in this area, the Kanto Plain, that is untouched.
Right.
And so we have kind of this pristine area along the golf course that hasn't been touched for a long time. So we were able to find some really interesting artifacts.
Yeah, I think that's a really neat aspect of what PW does, because everybody seems to think that we talk about pest control, or we talk about a modification to a building, or a trouble call, the big things like electrical outages and things like that. But
Right.
you've got that other arm that's the cultural resources piece that I think is really interesting. And when I talk to people about that, it's interesting to see them kind of perk up, and they see that,
Right.
wow, there's another aspect to this. And in fact, I was talking to a group on Friday night, and they were surprised that we were recovering artifacts like that. And then what our plan was to return it to Ayase City to give it back to the government of Japan, because it's not
Mhm.
ours, it's obviously
Right.
theirs.
Right, so-
And people were just surprised at that was something that your department has ongoing and has a continual effort with.
Right, yes, sir.
So,
Well, that's just a great example of good stewardship.
yep.
But while we're talking about the environment, people like to control their indoor environment. And,
Right.
right now we're in the time of year where it's chilly outside. So, why can't I just do like I do at home, in my single-family unit back in the States, and go heat on and magically starts working?
Sure. Well, there's a couple reasons for that. Largely, it's the heat distribution system on the base. When the base was planned, we used a steam system, so boiler plant operation. Boiler plants typically are very efficient in providing steam, and so at that point when the base was developed, it was steam distribution. With that, we have the ability, in saving energy, to tweak when we turn on the valves and turn off the valves to provide steam to the housing. So that's one of the issues within housing and within some of the administrative
Right.
areas, is that it's how the distribution is set up. Electrical heating tends not to be as efficient, but there are some locations where we do have some electrical heating, and they can turn on the switch, but primarily it's by steam.
So, why couldn't I have AC today and I have heat tomorrow, and then if it gets warm again and it pops up to 70 degrees or something like that, why couldn't I turn on the AC again?
Sure. Well, part of it is the distribution system itself, and it's as we put in controls to turn off the heat in the summertime, so that we're not constantly having the steam run through the buildings. To turn on all of those valves within the housing and all the different points on the base, it takes a long time to get that turned on. So, and then it's just it takes us 3 weeks to turn all the heat on the entire installation. So it just doesn't make sense. We just don't have the manpower to be able to turn every building on and off within a day's notice.
Sure. Well, I know we take it very seriously when we start considering turning heat on or turning AC on,
Right.
or turning it off for that matter. And we actually do a lot of studies looking at what the historical weather pattern is. And I know for turning on the heat, we had to have temperatures underneath 63. We do that for 3 consecutive days, and then we'll turn the heat on, because we've shown that if we turn it on before that, there's the warm summer days that linger into the fall. And all of a sudden, you'll have heat on in the house, and it's also 80 degrees outside.
Right.
And so it costs us about $14,000 a day to heat the base. And if we do that when it's warm outside, we're just throwing that money away. So we ask everybody to be supportive of the initiative that we're taking to, one, save money, and two, make it so it's comfortable around the base. And if you're chilly, put a sweater or a jacket on. Don't be afraid to put another blanket on the bed. But we're not trying to do it to just save money. We're trying to do it so that not everybody's uncomfortable, and that we also don't waste the PWO's manpower, because going and configuring those valves takes an awful long time. It's
Right.
not something we can rapidly do, just like you said. But because of the design of our system, it takes a while for us to shift from one to the other.
Right.
So with that, the onus is upon myself, Master Chief, Commander Beatty, everybody to, if you're chilly, put a jacket on, but think ahead about it a little bit. We just don't have the systems that we have back in the States. So we have to use what we have, and
Right.
we as the leadership have to try to make a good, solid call the best that we can at a timely manner.
Yes, sir.
So-
And if I could, I'd like to thank the families for their support during, the shift with the heating and the AC season. But also, you mentioned outages, and we've had a lot of outages
Yep.
recently with our advanced metering initiative, which is a big Navy-wide initiative. And so I just want to thank the families for their patience through all that. It's a huge, like I said, it's a huge Navy initiative.
Right.
It'll allow us to better meter each facility and get more real-time data that we can use to find efficiencies or inefficiencies in the basin, correct those.
Well, with AMI, you're going to be able to meter electricity, steam, and water as well, right?
Yes, sir.
And so we can see if we have a steam or a water leak someplace, but we can also find out where those energy hogs are at. If somebody left a door open that none of us can see from the ground, or something like
Right.
that, and all of a sudden letting all that heat out or letting all that AC out, and it'll help us with controlling that and hopefully getting that cost per unit per day down
Right.
to something that's manageable. So, yeah, AMI is something that's. I know we haven't talked about that with the public, but we definitely talk about it at the headquarters as a big initiative that CNIC is
Right.
planning.
And we've certainly talked about it with our tenant command leadership,
Right.
and, tried to discover ways to make sure we're maximizing the resources and being good stewards of the tax money.
Right. As well as also trying to minimize the impact to everybody on the base. So,
Yep.
but why don't we shift gears a little bit? So, one of the areas that you own as well is transportation.
Yes, sir.
So, every once in a while, we'll get a nice comment of seeing somebody driving a POV, a GOV, a government-owned vehicle, when they think it's inappropriate. And we do have some people that are on base that have orders that allow them to drive the vehicle because they are ordered here. We have other people that are using it on a daily basis, like security, because their job requires it. But one of the most frequent questions that we get is, how come somebody can take a GOV to McDonald's?
Typically, they cannot. There's very, very extreme limited cases where that's allowed, and even really, it's kind of a caution. I think probably you hear the New York Times test, and it's kind of one of those things of what's the perception. So even if I would just recommend that even if you have the authority to drive into a place like a McDonald's, which again is very, very limited, it has to be in one of those situations where it may be a deployable unit that has no other vehicles.
Right.
But even then, there are enough places on base that you just want to eliminate yourself from that perception of misuse of a government vehicle, because it does take a while to verify and to if the issue does come up, and
Right.
it is a big deal. It's a
Right.
huge deal.
Right. I know one that is the most common is security. Security is allowed to take the GOV over to a dining facility because they are armed up. They don't have the capability to unarm and to get in their POV, their personally owned vehicle, and take that someplace. So the GOV is authorized, and it specifically says that in the government regs.
Right.
But the nebulous area is who's on that deployable unit and who's not. And I would say that the 95% of us that have orders here to NAF at Sugi are not in that category. You
Right.
can't take the GOV for your own convenience because that is a government asset. And hoofing it is better than getting into trouble.
Well, in the environment that we're in right now,
Mhm.
the number of people that are being relieved from command, the people that are being relieved from their positions of responsibility for things, why risk it?
Right, right. Well, and like I said, it's a government asset. You have to be very careful with how you use that. Everything from your pens, your papers, to your pencils, all that stuff. and the GOV and the tax dollars that go into that are
Right.
same type of thing. So, all right, you want to shift gears one more time?
Sure, yes, sir.
All right. So let's say that I'm at home and I've got a problem with a leaky roof. Who do I call to try to report a trouble call?
Well, after hours, we recommend using 115, the phone number. That'll go directly to either our trouble desk cell phone number, or it'll go to our trouble desk during the day. In housing areas, and actually in every facility, there is a building manager. And that is really the best way to get an issue solved. We try to keep one point of contact for all those building needs and facility needs. So if you don't know who your building manager is, you can either contact your chain of command. The housing office will know, who the building manager is for those specific housing units. But also you could call 115 if you don't know and you haven't gotten an answer from your chain of command or whatnot. They'll be able to give you that answer as well, and they'll put you in place for the right person. But 115 is the number.
Okay.
And I'd also like to put a plug in that on most facilities and buildings here on base, as you're entering, there's a sign that says building manager
Yep.
and that person's name and phone number.
Yep.
Right.
So that's another way to get in contact with the building manager.
Yeah, the reason I throw that out is, it doesn't matter if you're in unaccompanied housing, family housing, or at work and you notice there's a discrepancy, please call that in. We will do everything we can to try to get it fixed, but if you help us try to take care of the facilities, they'll last a lot longer. And by doing that, by making those trouble calls earlier, we can minimize the damage that might be happening. Say if it is a leaky roof, or say if there's some other problem with the facility. This is a discussion point that we had at our all hands call not too long ago about, be a good steward of the resources we give you too, and please report those quickly, because you're going to pass that down to somebody else. And if we don't take care of the facilities right now, and then 3 years from now, we find out there was an issue, it could have, like a cancer, it could have migrated to other systems.
Right.
That leak could have now damaged the truss and the frames and other areas, not
Right.
just the immediate area around that leak.
Right.
And that's going to cost us a lot more to fix than if we had just that one little leak to worry about 3 years ago.
Absolutely. And, I checked out a sailor not long ago that lived with a problem in her barracks room for 3 years and never reported it except when they were leaving. And so that sailor dealt with a lower quality of life than what they should have had to deal with had they just reported it to begin with.
Right. Because the whole populace out there, you're our eyes, our ears, you're the folks that can help us identify
Right.
something, because you work with it every day. I only see it incidentally, and if I see it, I'll try to fix it on the spot. But if you're dealing with it, don't deal with it. Call it in and improve your quality of life, and we'll make sure we have good customer service to get it out there and fix it for you.
Right, and I would stress too, don't make the assumption that somebody else has already called it in,
Right.
and just go ahead and make that phone call.
Right.
That's a great
And
point.
we'll be able to identify if the work order's already been put in place.
Yeah, that's a great
Right.
point. All right, well, you got anything else you'd like to bring up on PW? I know that there's always going to be issues. We're probably going to talk next spring about turning on the AC.
Right, yes, sir.
we can mark that on our calendars.
No,
But,
sir, again, just kind of the thanks to the families, for the support through the outages, and then also our energy conservation efforts. We were very, very close to meeting the mandated target of the 30% reduction from 2005 to 2015. I think we were just roughly at about 28.5, so just slightly missed the goal. So we'll reset here again, but it's really important that everybody kind of does their part,
Right.
and make sure turning off lights and doing little things, because every little bit helps.
Yep, yep.
So.
All right. Well, with that, to try to do our little bit, how about if we take a quick break and we'll be back in a minute? And welcome back to NAF at Sugi for everybody from CVW5 and HSM 51 who just returned from deployment. We're excited to have you back home. I know that all the family members are happy you made it back home for Thanksgiving. So please make sure you have an enjoyable and safe Thanksgiving. Again, we're excited to have you back home. Congratulations on a very successful deployment, and let's have a happy holiday and a safe holiday. And welcome back to the second half of Captain's Call. This week we're going to shift over and talk about I always do this, I call him AE3, and it's actually EO3 Adhikari over at the Seabees. He is our Sailor of the Week. just wanted to give him a big BZ and congratulations. He's working hard over there. He's been there for a little over a year and doing a lot of good stuff with the CB, so I just want to give him a shout out and say congratulations to him before we head over and do the BZs. So CMC, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, let's get started with some Bravo Zulus this week. The staff, this is for the golf course pro shop. The staff and their service are just excellent. Thank you for providing a great service, for being the only course in the Kanto Plain that authorizes early bird for members.
Awesome. Okay, the next one up is our service provider is marketing at MWR. Noel and Allie are extremely helpful and quickly assessed my organization in completing a timely printing task. Excellent communications and outstanding final product.
Next one is for legal. I would like to praise Ellen2 Davidson and Nagano-san. They were extremely efficient and friendly. I was more than impressed with how they conducted themselves and took command of a crowded room and kept it organized. They ensured that each individual got the attention that they deserved. Words cannot describe just how impressed I was.
All right, the next service provider is Halsey Fitness Center. I just wanted to say how great all the staff is at Ranger and Halsey Fitness Centers. Everyone is super friendly and helpful and make it a great environment. So good job to them.
And our last Bravo Zulu today goes to family housing. I would like to thank our on-site inspector, Miss Maria, for the immediate action she took about a big tree outside my backyard. Within a week of my call, workers came out, trimmed the tree, and that makes this person happy because they have less leaves to rake.
That's awesome. All right, I'd like to give out a couple BZs and a couple closing items out there. So the first one I'll provide is for the people that participated in what's called IPAC. IPAC was the Installation Protection Assessment Cell. We had some people from CNIC come out here and gave us about 3 weeks heads up that they were going to come and look at what we were doing for EM and security and how those were working together. So BZ to actually 3 departments within that. One is to our training department because they're the glue that holds everything together between the 2 departments. They run the ITT and they run the training schedule. And then security and our EM department.
Right.
All 3 departments did a great job, and I appreciate everybody's focus on getting through the IPAC. And like I said, it was not quite no notice, but it was definitely late notice that it was going to happen. And we have a few things we need to work on, but they did a very nice job, so congratulations to them.
Well, anytime we have an inspection team come out, they're going to find something that we need to improve. And for those of you that know me, you know an analogy that I like to use is that of a battery, and that is the battery is either charging or discharging. So we as an organization, we're either getting better or we're getting worse. So, it's just a way for us to consistently look at ourselves and make improvements.
Right. So the last thing I'd like to put out this time is welcome back to everybody from CDW5 and from HSM 51. Welcome home from a very dynamic summer as we swapped aircraft carriers. We went out and went to Fallon. We did a bunch of stuff in the States that, we deployed to the United States of America. Was very, very interesting and, like I said, very dynamic as things swapped out. So it's nice to have everybody back after the last big exercise that was done. Welcome home. I know everybody's looking forward to having a safe, happy Thanksgiving and then going right straight into the holiday season. So like CMC was saying, I hope you get a chance to recharge your own batteries and come back more effective, more productive, and ready to hit 2016 running.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the holiday season coming up on us, and all of us here definitely work hard to protect our homeland and earn the paycheck because that's how we live. But this is a great opportunity for us all to take so that we can rest, relax, and enjoy a little bit of downtime. On that note, though, we are overseas. We don't necessarily have family that we can hop in the car and drive 20, 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or take a 1 hour, 2 hour flight to go visit. So I would just encourage everybody to open up their homes to some of our sailors that are here without family and, don't necessarily have any other place to go.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to make one last pitch for Thursday at the galley, 1500 to 1800. That's when we're going to serve our Thanksgiving meal here at NAF Atsugi Galley. The commanding officer, myself, and the command master chief from Commander Fleet Air Forward will be there in some capacity, serving, greeting, walking around. But please take this opportunity to come enjoy a great meal, and more importantly, you don't have a mess to clean up afterwards.
Exactly. The price is right, too. It's $9.05 for those that are not on
Mhm.
rations.
Right.
So I think it's probably the best $9.05 that you're ever going to spend, because you don't have to worry about going to
Right.
shopping, buying, cooking, and then finally cleaning up. But you do get the opportunity to have all the American fixins and a great Thanksgiving. So
Yeah.
I know I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. And if you've ever spent $30 on a turkey and prepped it and put it in the oven and went back 3 hours later and realized you didn't turn the oven on, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, let's hope you didn't forget to turn the heat on. But, all right, do you have anything else for this week?
That's all I have, sir.
All right, just remember to turn the heat on with that turkey if you do have one. So that's all we have this week from NEF Atsugi's studios here in Building 949. Not quite Rockefeller
right.
Square, but anyway, have a great week, a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next time.